All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Move for a Movement. I have with me Stephane Duret. He is Stephane Duret.
Stephane
Is
Duret, yeah.
is the founder and director of Kaiser's Room, New York City based, and Davonna Batt is a teaching artist. She's also a performing artist. Does a lot of wonderful stuff with movement in New York. And this is, I think, the second episode where I've had two people on. So that's exciting. I'm very, very excited to have you both here and hear more about the wonderful work that Kaiser's Room does. So thank you both for joining.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Catherine, for having us. This is such a tremendous opportunity and platform. So thank you for wanting to dive in.
Of course. How are you both doing in this unprecedented time? We'll put it that way.
It's definitely a fun time. But I think one of the beautiful opportunities that we've been given with this moment is to kind of have a bit of a paradigm shift and kind of reassess our priorities, and kind of realign with our intentions. So I think it's been a great time to be like, great, what am I doing? How am I doing it? And why am I doing it? So to really get to solidify on some of those things and kind of double down has kind of been fun. So we're gonna shine light on that silver lining and call it a day. That's my take, at least.
Yeah, I'm in your boat. I totally agree. And in addition to that, sort of like cognitive shift and inward focus is this weird, sudden global perspective. Also, not just because the pandemic is global, but because now I'm in Zoom classes with people in Germany, and we're like, oh, it's 10 p.m. there, and it's morning here, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're all doing this thing, and there's a nice sort of like collective feeling with suddenly relying on the internet like this and seeing dance everywhere.
Yeah, it's something the whole world is going through together.
Yeah.
I mean, you have certain countries, like you go to Australia and no one's wearing masks and they have Broadway back up and you're like, good for them,
Right.
but for the most
Right.
part, the whole world is going through this together, and a virus doesn't respect boundaries.
Yeah.
So it's like we have no choice but to work together.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, shifting into Kaiser's Room. Viewers of the show will notice that I often start by talking about mission statement because I think it's a good place to kind of get an idea of what a certain artist or an organization does and open up conversation from there. Kaiser's Room is a nonprofit service organization that provides the opportunity for imagination and connection through theater and dance for students of all ages and all abilities. How did that mission evolve? Stephane, but also Davonna, if you want to chime in there, that's great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give a little history, back in 2008, I did an amazing show. I'm a performer by trade. I went to school for musical theater. Shout out to the Chicago College of Performing Arts. And so after graduating, I auditioned for a show. It wasn't really an audition, it was more of an interview. And it was for an interactive, multi-sensory theatrical experience with a company called Red Kite. The show's called Red Kite Roundup, where 8 actors would take a maximum of 10 students on this like imaginary camping trip that all happened in one space. And it really pivoted in my mind the impact that theater can have on a community, on individuals. And it was really such a beautiful moment in time for me. So my idea was, it started off as doing these interactive multisensory performances for autistic children here in New York City. It then evolved, the more research I did with other family members and stakeholders in the community, I learned that these students, these neurodiverse students, don't have things like dance recitals or plays necessarily. They don't get that moment where they get to share something with their family or with their friends. So I was like, great, why don't we start doing classes as well? So now we have performance-based classes like dance, acting, and musical theater, as well as, when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, these multi-sensory theatrical experiences. The last one that we did was called Treasure in NYC. It was a treasure hunt through New York City landmarks. That was really sweet. We have Adventures in Winter Wonderland, which is another really adorable holiday edition. But yeah, and then we also broadened from focusing on children with autism spectrum disorder to anyone with a cognitive, developmental, or intellectual disability. And we really do serve all people because we have a very individualized approach. So it isn't teaching you this because you fit into this box. It's really collaborating and experiencing whatever we have together in this group, in this space, with the people that are there present. So yeah, that's kind of how that evolved from there to where we're at now. Davonna, you want to talk a bit about your experience doing the thing?
Yeah, in terms of teaching.
Yes, please.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I can share a little bit about my start, or how I found you all. I had to check. I hadn't realized how long I had been part of this family, but it's been a little over 2 years now. I think it was September 2018 that I kind of discovered KR, and it was through my good friend, my dear friend Zanza. And she had already been teaching for you guys, and it just kept popping up in conversation while we were in rehearsal. And she was sharing how much she loved the mission and thought it was really great. And she really enjoyed the process of teaching. So I thought, okay, what is this thing? Tell me about it. And luckily there was a group interview, and I was able to jump in. I knew that I had a lot to learn, but I was ready to learn feet first, you know. And it's been really fun. It's been really fun. So I've now done in-person classes and online classes because of where we are. And, you meet so many different individuals, which is lovely. And they've been some dance classes, some dance and acting. Dance is my background. So I feel really at home when movement is the focus, or the base from which we grow. And it's been beautiful. I mean, the class itself is just play. It's funny because it's not work, it's play. And I am a dance teacher. Aside from being a performer, I am also a dance teacher for several years now. And I still get to utilize those skills in terms of time management and how I interact with the kids, or adults, even how I interact with the students, and my energy, and using the background knowledge of movement that I have. But this work is a little different because it focuses on imagination and play and the process, rather than being sort of tied to or tethered to a preconceived idea of what a result should look like. And just like in improv, if you take improv in acting or improv in dance, even, this sort of subtext rule is yes and it's, I don't know if that's where this came from, Stephane, but to me it's completely similar to our work being centered around yes, right? Oh my gosh, it's on the back of my shirt.
Yes. Imagination connection. Yes. Love it.
Clearly it's important to us. But yeah, so like you said, a really individualized approach, and you get to take and give, and it's play, so it's awesome.
Yeah, to kind of elaborate on that, yes, if I may, the name Kaiser's Room came from, I was working with a young boy named Kaiser, and it was a form of early intervention for autism spectrum disorder. And it's a parent-run program where I would spend 2 hours at a time in this little playroom with this little boy named Kaiser. And in that playroom, it was a world of yes. Whatever he wanted to do, whoever he wanted to be, however big the car wash, we built a lot of car washes, but however big a car wash he wanted to make with whatever materials he could find, the answer was always yes, so long as he wasn't hurting himself or anyone else, damaging property. There was another hard boundary of water. We weren't allowed to play with water. But anything outside of that was yes. And I got to watch this young child flourish in the world of acceptance of self and others. And I was like, this is what I want to offer everyone else, other, you know, students. I want to give them this space where we can create whatever it is. We can make a dance move out of climbing the wall like Spider-Man. We can make that happen, because why not? So that's kind of where that came from, just to elaborate on that a little bit.
Love it. That was one of my questions. So check. I was also going to ask Davonna how you got started. So check. I was thinking while you both were talking, and I don't know if this resonates, I would love to hear if it does, in relation to your work with Kaiser's Room. I was listening to a yoga podcast last night. I'm a yoga practitioner and teacher. But this woman who has scoliosis, severe enough that she had to have rods put in to support her spine. And she's also a 300-hour trained yoga instructor. And she had called her program Yoga for Scoliosis, but then she changed it to Yoga with Scoliosis, because she realized, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm just trying to offer this space where people who are in this condition, who have this condition, can flourish within this practice. Mm-hmm. So when you're speaking about the power of yes and the work you do, I was thinking about it's not like ABA therapy, which can be transformational for people with autism spectrum disorders, being able to fit in, I hate that, but like function in society and have a job and things like that. But what you offer is this space of imagination and play where they really can just be who they are. That really struck me. It's with them and their imagination rather than for their condition. Does that resonate?
That absolutely resonates. I think you hit that nail on the head. It's, it's a world where we have to fit in to society. There are things we can do in public and things we can't do in public. Especially when it's hard for us to differentiate that. Why should we? Right. Why should we bend to some of these rules when we don't necessarily have to? I'm equipped to be flexible, and if perseverating is kind of what you do, well, we can try to find ways to navigate around that, or we can try to incorporate it, or we can, figure it out together. It's very collaborative, and I think it's really beautiful. I think a big thing for me, as like historically as a human being, is being heard, and being myself. I think that we as artists always find that. That's why art is such a powerful escape for us, because it is a form of self-expression and a form of acceptance. And this is a lot of what we want to offer.
Yeah. And movement and art and theater and acting lend itself perfectly to that. I'm sure this could be done in a fine arts class too, if we wanted to change mediums. And that the yes thing is really powerful. To me, maybe the most powerful part, if I put it in my own words, is that like the yes part is like when we experience yes as people, it's sort of that magic feeling, that magic boost you get when your own actions are positively reinforced by others. Like when you make a decision or a statement or an expression and everyone around you agree that that was a good idea and that was an awesome thing to do, and we're going to go with that and we're going to build on your idea. And for all of us, our own senses of self-worth benefit from that in a really big way, even if we're not acknowledging that in the moment. And if you think about it, how often are individuals in the neurodiverse community being told no, which in my mind would be doing the opposite of what a yes does. And they're being told no on a daily basis. And we know what that feels like too, because how different is it? We're all people. And they're being told no, maybe because their habits, physical habits, vocal habits, or just the way they navigate and understand the world isn't necessarily what others around them are expecting. And even if it's not literally saying the word no, there are many ways of saying no or giving negative reinforcement. So KR is special because we are specifically holding a place for these individuals, holding space for these individuals, and letting them know that, yes, they are making good decisions, they are smart, they are creative, they do have good ideas, they can be themselves, and they, by being themselves, can contribute to a group as well and make the group better.
Mm. I was also thinking about turning things that society might call a liability into a gift. I was going to say superpower. It's something beautiful, something imaginative, because so many people know that people with autism spectrum disorder often they have these like very focused interests, be it dinosaurs or cars or trains, and it's like, okay, we're going to have an imagination hour of we're going to build a train and we're going to do move with the train. So it's this space that like I can just imagine it's like heaven. So whereas like normal society would be like, yeah, you're really interested in trains. And KR, it's like, yay, trains! We're gonna spend 2 hours on trains.
Yeah,
Um,
I think our students really benefit from that moment. We
yeah.
partner with a lot of schools, which has been so great. So we get to step into an already existing world where this is school, this is class. So there are certain boundaries, like we need to sit down or we need to stand in the back of the room if we need to stand. There are adjustments made for need, but for the most part, we're learning math right now.
Uh, uh,
And then Kaiser's room gets to step in, and it's like, what are we going to work on now? Are we going to be clowns? Are we going to be elephants? Like, what will we do? And it's just this like free form space to just kind of like release that just a little bit, that structure, because it's hard. A lot of us spend a lot of time in school, and at the end of a school day, you're a little tired because it can be so draining. So just having that little zest in the middle of your day, it's so liberating, I think, and you really see it in the students, which is also such a gift. They are excited to come to our class and leave with a pep in their step. It's really fun. It's really fun.
I love it. I love it. I'm curious. Both of you are performing artists by trade. I'm curious about how that, and perhaps even teaching neuronormative, we might call it, populations, dance or theater, anything you've taught, how that might be in conversation with what you do at KR, if at all.
Yeah. Davonna, you want to take that one?
Yeah, how what I already do in my life translates into classic KR.
Yeah. And vice versa, perhaps, like in conversation.
Sure. So that skill of creativity, I know personally I wasn't really able to uh, fully dive into with less fear until more like college age. But have been trying to hone that skill since then, of being creative and being flexible. Like Stephane said, I'm pointing this way, but you're all here. I'm like, you're over here on my screen. Like Stephane said, being flexible and being able to kind of diverge and say, you're right, that's the path that we're going to take, and coming up with imagery for movement, like you said, like if you ask someone to contribute to a dance move, like we're going to do a dance party, we're all going to learn each other's dance move, and we're going to maybe put it together and throw on some music. And someone's dance move, or all they decide to do that moment is like raise a hand, or like Stephane showed, like just kind of go side to side. And you're like, oh, what is this? Is oh, are we climbing a wall? And just to make it imaginative and pull in some visual stimulation, I guess, is definitely acting training too. But I've found that helpful, even just teaching other dance classes. I mean, I think a lot of these for the neuronormative community teaching dance classes. I think a lot of these skills and a lot of these practices and games and sort of tricks of the trade are actually what we should all be doing all the time. In addition to technique and whatever we want to like, what skills we want to grow, we're also still art, and we're also still trying to be creative in the process and stimulate that creativity in kids. And you're right. I think especially since everyone's online at school now, that kind of element is pretty huge. I think as KR relates to me, it's a really good reminder of the power of simplicity. I've been really like inspired by in probably the last year by the power of simplicity done right. And when you're moving from and making decisions from a really clear motto, or not necessarily vision, but just idea, a motto, it's my best word for now, like the power of yes. And then that's simple, but it's clear what it means to you. Then the following actions, the necessary following actions for whatever comes, just kind of fall into place a little bit easier, rather than trying to pull the details and line things up just right so that when it's time, it's going to work, but rather than just being able to make decisions in the moment. And that works for life, right? Like where you have your morals and the things that you live by and the things that you know that are true, and that are really true for you and that you want to contribute, and then you make decisions from there. And we have to be flexible with our careers. They're all online now, you know what I mean? So that's been really huge. And the other thing is that KR classes are not just powered by the teacher. Like we've been saying, we go back and forth, and everyone's contributions are powering the moment. And that can also be sort of a microcosm for life, because oftentimes I know that I'm feeling like, ooh, I'm carrying a lot of weight here, and like, wow, this whole life is mine, and whatever decision I make is gonna like take it off track. I don't know, but it can be empowering to share the responsibility with others and know that you don't have to carry it all by yourself, and that we're actually all here together, and that's useful. That's better that way.
I love that back and forth of there's this, oh, we're climbing a wall. And that's in dance movement therapy, also back in my training, that, you know, what are the people in the group giving you, and then responding to that. So it's not you being teacher in a hierarchical traditional model. And also I would say in a lot of choreography, you know, especially, you know, improvisationally when dancers are together, there's, okay, that person is doing that, so how do I respond in the moment, and what is that effect on and it's out there because it's powerful, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think for me, I tell people all the time, I wouldn't have made it to Broadway had it not been for this work, because you got to check yourself at the door and you have to listen to respond to your scene partner.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared. So these are kind of like the big things I tell all of our teaching artists all the time. You have to have like a toolkit where, like, if this exercise is in your lesson plan and it's not working, switch, pull another one out of that toolkit. You've got that preparation because you are the leader of the moment, and you're letting the moment kind of be adjusted by the people in the classroom around you. So you being the one with the plan and the structure, but still having that flexible structure. So that, in my mind, is the preparedness. Making sure that you are like full before you step into a room and give. I feel like you have to do this for auditions as well. And also listening and responding to your scene partner holistically. Not my line, your line, my line, your line. It's like actually having a conversation.
Yeah. I think it was Matt Damon who said acting is listening. So, and I feel like you could like take out acting and put in so much there with creative endeavors and beyond.
Right. Listening and responding. So.
I'm curious if either both of you have a favorite story or two from the work that you want to share, just to, give a little bit more of a microscope onto to what happens in these classes, in these rooms, in Kaiser's room.
There's room. I've got so many. Um,
Or like a general trend that anything on those lines.
okay, so I've got one. I had a buddy in an acting class who was showing some difficulties in his classroom. We were after school program at that point in time at that partner. And what they did in his school was they pulled him out of class because he was being disruptive and violent, actually, with his peers. So they pulled him aside and put him in a different classroom, and he was to take school alone in a room. And they were like, we don't think acting is going to work for him because he's just really having a hard time. And we're like, I don't know that that's actually productive. I mean, like, no tea, no shade. Like, everybody has their process and their things. So, like, I'm not here to judge anybody's system. But we were like, how are we helping him adapt to these feelings that he's having in his body, which is making him behave this way? Just isolating him? Let's try a different tactic. So we had a meeting with his caregiver and with my co-teacher and I and him. And every single class we had a plan. What are we working towards today? And he would disgruntledly say something like, I want a cupcake. Okay, great. Can he have a cupcake if he does class with no problems today? Caregiver says yes. Great. Let's go into class. And the second he would start having a feeling or something, we would say, hey, bud, what are we working towards today? Cupcake, right? Well, great. Now we can recycle that energy and refocus so that we can get that cupcake at the end of our class. And he soared. Just by giving him some autonomy, keeping him included as opposed to secluded. It was really fun to see that and to be able to give that opportunity, I think. So I think that's going to be my story.
I love it.
That's awesome. I'm trying to think of individual stories like that. I've had, even though I've been here for 2 years, I've had maybe 3 or 4 different groups that I've been with. One long term, and a couple others are just 7-week chunks, and you only see them once a week. But the one group that we've gotten to have for a longer time is actually an adult group, and this is the class that I taught as an assistant to Zanza, and it was a dance class, and that was really special and hopefully one day we can go back, but it was really special to be able to continually see the same faces over and over again, and for them to memorize our names right away. Like, before we could memorize all their names, even, maybe they were like, as soon as we walked through the door, like, hi Zanza, hi, and we would have a fairly consistent little warm up that utilizes all these like visuals and stuff. But at the end of the warm up, we would do like a little like pop quiz. We're not calling it a quiz, we're not calling it a test, but we're like, oh, we've been kind of working on teaching them ballet, because where else are they going to find ballet? It's not like they're like, in a typical structured ballet class that they'll be able to thrive like they will here. So we were teaching them some ballet, some plie, some tendu, some releve, simple stuff that's standing, but we all got to stand in a circle and face each other. So that was also a really great structure for class. It's not typical for most classes. And by the end of, gosh, I wish I knew how many weeks in we were, but I was very like impressed that by the time, it was by the time that we had a little like show and tell almost, we had some of the parents or the caretakers come in and watch class, see what we've been doing this whole time. They were answering like, oh, this is a plie, this is a tendu, and they were saying that these names in the French term, and they would be able to execute the movements. And they were actually like learning steps and putting it together, and they were not, even though they were also playing the games and making stuff up as we go along and doing all this stuff, they were able to like really focus and share what was their favorite activity that they wanted to do again this week, because we love dance party, or we love this is where we pass around an object and decide what it is you're holding, and magically abracadabra change it into something else. And that's my favorite activity, so I'm a little biased, but but I think memorably was that they were able to just be doing ballet just like I would be teaching all my other classes. And what's the difference, and their parents were so impressed. So we were really proud of them there, that was a sort of goal that we didn't know we had, but we reached.
I love it. I was going to say, like, were their parents blown away? That's so great.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps changes their parents' perception of what's possible for them.
Correct. Yeah. Which we would love to do at any point, even though, parents and caretakers, to have them there to begin with, of course, believe in what's possible for them. But again, you finally get to put your kid or your child in a place that lets them get to that goal, or lets them find themselves in that way. And then you finally get to see it, and you haven't had any part of it. All you did was send them here for an hour, right? And then it's sort of like a magical transformation over time. That's got to be pretty big.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of people ask me often, why do you do it? Why do you do this work? And I always say the faces. And we're like, what are you talking about? But like, the faces of the students enjoying themselves and expressing themselves is one thing, but then the look on the parents' faces is something else. It's this look of awe, of joy, and of pride that they get to have in their child. Because again, we get a lot of parents that are like, I didn't know my kid could do this. And it's like, well, not only do they do it once a week for 8 weeks. And like, this is what I know of your child. So I'm glad you can see it too. It really is this beautiful, beautiful thing. And even my teaching artists, some classes can be a little, they can be like, it can take a lot of energy. But there's a lightness and a lifting at the end of a class that's just, it's a beautiful opportunity for everyone involved, I think. Love the faces.
We did it by the power of yes.
Exactly.
So great. So COVID, good times. I was thinking, it's been such a tough times, and artists, of course, notwithstanding. And for people trying to share the arts in an accessible way for all populations, oh my God, just the challenges. Can't imagine really. So I'm wondering how Kaiser's Room has approached that, keeping that mission burning bright despite the challenges we're now facing.
Yeah, we're used to being very flexible, and I think that worked in our favor. The world shut down, and we immediately realized this is going to affect our community pretty drastically. Our students tend to be very busy students. It's not just going to school and then going to some sort of extracurricular. You've got speech therapy, you've got physical therapy, you have regular therapy, you have doctor's appointments with the GI, with this person, with that person. These are busy, busy students, and they're all on tight, regimented schedules. And now all of that scheduling is gone. That structure that can be so grounding, that can be predictable, which is really kind of, it gives a sense of safety. This sense of structure is now obliterated, and they're just home. So we said we need to go online. And we started online. We launched private lessons. Another teaching artist and I developed a virtual class that was pre-recorded, and it was the two of us, and we're like, what do you think of this? And we sent that to a couple of community stakeholders to get their feedback. And the feedback was the pre-recorded, though we initially thought they can take it at their own pace, they can pause it and come back to it. They had 2 teaching artists to kind of help model. These ideas didn't work so great. So that's another thing that I really love that we do is we really do we talk to the community. We don't just impose our thoughts and our feelings. We say, hey, what is it that you would like? What do you want? And what's most beneficial for you?
Right.
So our stakeholders came back and they were like, that second teaching artist is confusing. We don't know who's leading the class or who isn't. The pre-recording class is cute, but there's no interaction. So we just went on to Zoom. And we've thus far done 2 sessions of our individual classes. We've rejoined virtually with 3 of our partners, including St. Francis School for the Deaf, where we actually have a deaf teaching artist teaching to the deaf plus community, people that experience deafness or loss of hearing with other disabilities. So we were doing like 2 classes a week with them. We've really kicked it up into high gear, and I think the community has been very appreciative and supportive. So we're really happy to have taken that shift. We're like, COVID who? We got this. We're here for you.
Love it.
Whatever you need.
Yeah, Davonna, I'd love to hear your experience as teaching artist shifting to online and working with this diverse population.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to continue teaching with a new group, actually. This is a group that I was meeting over Zoom as well. And I think the tricky part there was simply that the structure still wasn't totally there, even though we met at the same time every week. It was a different subsection of that group every week. So you had some repeat class takers and some that you're like, oh, I still don't know your name, and sorry, what was it? I can't hear you. So they're all the like technical things that happen over Zoom, no matter what class it is. You know, I was also teaching my regular classes over Zoom for a while, and it's the same thing. But it ended up actually being pretty successful. You know, even though you can't necessarily like see them in perfect vision or full screen all the time, you can still get a sense of whether or not they're responding to you. And you can still call them by name if they can still hear you, and you can still call them by name, and they can be and they can hear that and respond and offer a color for the rainbow that we're painting, or whatever it is. It still felt like we were finding some wins and some successes there, especially if sequentially throughout, you know, the 7-week program, you would have some that repeat, and at first you're like, I'm not sure if they're really enjoying it, but we'll see. We'll keep going with it. And, you know, I'll keep doing my thing and see if we can find that thing that they love. Like we were talking about, like maybe it's dinosaurs. But, you know, if usually they'll offer it to you, no matter what the question is, this is the answer every time. But not all of them were so vocal. Not everyone wants to talk. But when you get to see them sort of grow even over the 7 weeks, like big win today was that so-and-so actually stood up with us for a dance party. Like they weren't sitting, they stood up and they did it. Or so-and-so verbally offered me a color for the rainbow. Even the small wins are big wins, and I think show the progress, and also just the potential for further progress if you were to continue. But it's been tricky because of the technical challenges, but it's still a KR class, so it's still rewarding. You just adjust the activities so they're Zoom friendly.
And I mean, it's great because we actually got some really great feedback. Davonna is one of our fan favorites. Everybody loves Davonna's class, but the feedback that we got was tremendous, because again, a lot of these, in this class in particular, they were adults. Not a lot of activities for the neurodiverse adults out there, so they're sitting at home. So this one little moment is a moment to interact. I love sitting in on your classes sometimes and seeing the students say hello to each other Because it's like, these are people that were in a program together that would see each other day in and day out, and now they're all sequestered in their own homes. So now it's like they get an opportunity to see each other, they get an opportunity to meet and, you know, grow with Davonna, and then they also get an activity. You know, maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 45 minutes, but it's, you know, it's something to look forward to. So we're appreciative of teaching artists like Davonna, who really show up and just give continuously. Because sometimes the phone is down and you don't know if they're up dancing or not. You see the ceiling. Zoom is what it is, you know? But we don't give up. You create that space.
I'm also grateful for that. So thanks to Stephane and the entire KR team. I mean, there's a whole team behind the operation, and
Right.
there are lots of other teaching artists too, and I'm less versed in musical theater, so impressed when I get to watch a snippet of someone else teaching musical theater. I'm like, how creative was that? I'm stealing your ideas now. And you know, some of them have like a green screen behind. I'm like, that was genius. That was genius. Like, how distracting is this mirror? You know what I mean? Like, there's a green screen behind, and it's just, you're transformed. You are in a new place entirely. But yeah, we're often collaborating and taking little tips and tricks from each other. But thank you to Stephane. That was very sweet. Thank you.
Hey,
I bet you rock the musical theater, Davonna. I bet you'd rock it.
I would certainly try. I would start that way, and then in the end I'd be like, well, now we're dancing. How did that happen?
Dance heavy show, maybe.
Yeah, hey, it's what is it? The trajectory of passion and emotion.
Yeah.
You know, when you're so moved that your prose, your words transition into song, and when words just can't cut it anymore, that's when you dance. The evolution of passion.
Yes. I tend to skip straight to the end. So it'd be good for me to practice the in between, so it makes sense sequentially, but there's a reason for it.
Love it. Well, I appreciate Kaiser's Room and all the work you all do. I will say that. Do what you do. You can make it through 2020. I think we can make it through anything.
I know that's right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share that we didn't hit on before we close it out? Either both of you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Pleasure.
Thank you for hosting these conversations and not only helping with exposure, but putting social justice at the beginning of the conversation again. You know, just like Stephane said, that the skill was that we're listening. Like, that's also going to translate to how we're continuing to navigate our social interactions. Is how do we listen first? How do we realize that we don't have all the answers, and we can't just be telling people what to do all the time.
Yeah.
We can't have all the answers. It's quite impossible, not for everybody. Right. So thanks for starting that.
Yeah, of course. I 100% believe more brains together, the better. That's why I love conversations. Just love what I do as a dance writer. You know, my favorite part of the work is talking with creatives and artists about what they do and what they can contribute. So that's all part of it.
Yeah. And it's important. It's important as artists, not just for our own well-being, but I think for the world around us, to really use our art to have these conversations and to be reminded of how to be better to each other. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So
what a concept. Be good to each other. All right. On that note, everyone. Sorry, Stephane?
Oh, no, that's all.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening, watching. Thank you again to Stephane and Davonna for joining. Please like, subscribe, comment, all the good things. If you know people who you think would be interested in this work, in these conversations, please share, spread the word, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much again, everyone.